Today I'm going to be chatting with Lenny from Dynamite Diesel Products. Wanted to chat with him about injector technology, a really huge move the company is getting ready to do, what he's been spending his summer with, and how the technology and the efficiency of diesel injectors is really coming to a point that's pushing older trucks, newer trucks to levels we didn't think they could reach. So I'm looking forward to chatting with him today. Before we get to it, I want to give a shout out to a couple of our sponsors. The first is Kershaw Knives. They have a 40% off retail code just for Diesel Podcast listeners. If you use code TDP40 at kershaw.kaiusa.com, you get 40% off retail. They've got a ton of different choices. If you're looking for an EDC knife or something for hunting, fishing around the job site, around the house, they've got you covered with a bunch of different choices with different opening mechanisms, blade steel, blade shape, different handle designs, and their whole lineup is designed to meet really any budget that's out there. So we appreciate them offering that code to help save our listeners some money and get some cool gear. Also, recently we started an apparel company. We wanted to be able to have t-shirts and mugs and things like that we'd want to wear ourselves. And some of it has to do with trucks, some of it doesn't. Kind of like the shirt I'm wearing today, keep the shiny side up, which you guys hear me say. There's a bunch of other designs that are out there, but I wanted to thank all of you for the encouragement, the orders, the support. It's really been overwhelming. I'm really proud of our team here that has come together with ingenuity, creativity, dedication to get the website up, get the designs, pick the right kind of t-shirt material. Really proud of them. You're going to find a link down below to Rugged Threads Co. Click on over. Browse. If you have suggestions, we've got actually a lot of really good suggestions from you guys for either different sayings or designs or even sizes, things you guys are looking for. So we wanted to thank you guys and really look forward to being able to grow this and have it expand with different things that encompass the truck lifestyle. All right, let's get to today's podcast with Lenny from Dynamite Diesel Products and talking about injectors. Welcome to the Diesel Podcast, Lenny, or welcome back, I should say. I know your schedule's super busy during the summer and you got a lot coming up, so I appreciate you taking time this morning to chat with me. I want to get caught up on the shop, talk about some racing stuff, some other cool things you guys have going on at Dynamite Diesel.
Yeah, no, it's we always appreciate coming back on, and it seems like something must be working because we're busier by the day. It's getting kind of crazy right now. I love it. It's fun.
There's so many people doing things on older trucks that I hear from a lot of different companies when we're doing podcasts or just talking with different shop owners, different companies that make aftermarket parts. It's really exciting as a diesel enthusiast to see how much love those older trucks still get. And you've talked on the podcast about ramping up, investing into machinery, people, buildings to be able to accommodate this growth. So I wanted to see what's new since we chatted last.
Well, yeah, I mean, I do have a 2024 sitting in the driveway. Love it. It's amazing. But it's a $1,500 truck payment. And if I didn't have a company and employees and a reason to justify that, there's no way that I would ever think about doing that, right? So I can't see how a customer, just a regular guy that's got a 9 to 5 or an 8 to 5 and a couple of kids, I can't see how they can do it. But they are, and then the emissions gear that's under them, deleting those things. We've been talking about this for years now. Deleting them's pretty much, it's still out there a little bit, but most of the really, I would say that it's got to be 20% of what it used to be, down by 80%. And I really believe like the really qualified tuners were the ones that got popped in the last few years. So I'm wholeheartedly, I guess that kind of leads me to the status update of our 2019. So my 5th gen right now, the 2019, we've got injectors in it. I was able to create a flow map of a stock injector and the injector that's in the truck. I gave that to the guys at Edge and they used that mapping. They created an Edge Easy X. So it'll be a plug and play install under the hood, install the injectors. And ultimately at that point, we're going to have that tested. So we're hoping that the future is you purchase a set of injectors that we don't know where they're going to land, whether it's 50 or 75 or 100 horse, I don't know. But you buy these injectors, they'll be, brand new. You'll get an Edge Easy X in there, and together those units would have to work together. Like that Edge Easy X will not be programmed by Edge. That will not have their regular programming in it. that'll be programmed specifically for that set of injectors. And it's only going to have like one tune in it available, but it will be tuned and then certified. So in the box, you'd get an EO or a carb cert set of injectors with the box underneath the hood, all ready to go. No fuss, no muss, just, buy and drive. So we're really stoked about that. I actually have a meeting with those guys because we've got to get our truck down there. So I have a meeting with them in about an hour and a half, just like this one. And so we're gonna go from there on the 2019 stuff. But the way you presented that question was talking about the older trucks. It's ridiculous. Like, we just did that nozzle sale and we got 4,000 blanks in, 4,000 nozzles in. By the end of the nozzle sale, we were already ordering more nozzles because we'd ran out of that. And that nozzle sale was, I think, 2 months. So a lot of guys got massive updates in injectors and technology and what have you. But yeah, I would say it was a success. And then I know that I didn't just kill my market base, because our market base, like the guys who buy our stuff and sell our stuff, that their sales are up as well. So I had one customer last week order 1,175 nozzles.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And they build their own injectors. They just buy nozzles from us. So obviously I'm not hurting their business either, right? Like, it was just, I do think I'm currently home. And so I've already been to the shop. A customer drove up from Oregon, walked in and asked the sales team if they could speak to me or Mitch, because he watches our videos. And they were like, Mitch, like he works for Lenny out at the house. Well, yeah, I need somebody to set timing on my old 12 valve. And they're like, no, bro, like that ain't gonna work. And then I come walking in, and I'm like, I'm a sucker. So I'm like, yeah, I'll do it. Like, just be here at 7 a.m. So I ran to town, grabbed his truck, brought it back out here. We cooled it off. Mitch is currently out there setting the timing on the truck. He's got a set of our stage ones, and it's just this dude had like a newer Chevrolet pickup, doesn't want electronics. So start, stop solenoid. He built the tranny. It's good. He's just wants to keep it real simple and keep it basic. He found himself a barn find 98 four-wheel drive short bed truck. He's done, in my opinion, like all the right things. He's been his own mechanic, but his local injection shop said the only way they would modify his timing is if they pulled the injection pump off, recalibrated the injection pump, and then installed it, and would install it with advanced timing. And I'm like, this is crazy to me. Like, so that leads me to our dealer days. Like, obviously we're moving into a new building, and then we're going to have our first dealer days. We're going to cap that at 50, and we're possibly going to have one in 3 to 6 months later. But I'm pulling in Tony Salas. Tony Salas owns a company where he does just onboard vehicle diagnostic training. And Tony and I have been talking about possibly putting together almost like a college, like short duration classes, where guys would come to our shop. Tony would be there for a couple weeks. Your employees would be there for a couple weeks. And during that couple of weeks, we would focus on certain trucks, diagnosing, troubleshooting, things like that. So yeah, the new building is going to offer new opportunities, because it blows me away that back in the day when I first started this, there was a day when I would pull a truck in that was bone stock, 180, 175 horse, advanced timing, throw a drop-in air filter in it, throw a set of gauges at it, throw an exhaust kit at it, throw some timing at it, a cam plate, and at lunchtime, I would go grab another one out of the parking lot and do the same thing. And today, I've driven to Bozeman, Montana. I've done several like timing courses just here locally, like in Spokane. And these shops, I feel bad for them, because they get a guy that starts to figure it out, and then he's gone doing something else. So a year later, they need to get retrained on all old trucks. So I think it's crazy to me, but I think that's something. It VP44, 7.3 liter Power Stroke, 12 valve stuff. Yeah, they're alive, they're well, and people are loving them seemingly more now than they were I should say they're appreciating them more now than they were 10 years ago.
It's really interesting you mentioned the dealer side, because I was going to ask you, what's the resurgence, or why is it? But you answered the question there, and it also leads into something else you've talked with us about going back. I remember doing it in 2020, like March of 2020. You were talking about getting equipment and doing these things because you saw the market not necessarily change, but the direction it was going in. So with the sale that you had and the people buying the old stuff and what you're working on with the new ones, you really need the infrastructure in place to be able to handle that kind of volume. And then the dealers, like you said, who depend on you, they might have a guy in the shop that he's the guru at timing, or he's the guru at something else, and then he goes off and does something, and you're able to offer that support as well. So it's seamless. I think it makes a more seamless process from the customer that goes in with a 12 valve, 7.3, 6 liter, 5.9, LB7, whatever it might be, to the shop, to when they call you guys, to what you ship to them.
The infrastructure. So, I mean, the irony of that is I ordered 600 nozzles from an Italian manufacturer, and 600 nozzles isn't very heavy, but I told this manufacturer, like, email number one, don't ever ship me a box that's more than 25 pounds, because from Italy to here, it's going to get a lot of hands throwing it from one shelf to the ground, back up to a shelf, in an airplane, on a boat, in a freight truck. And I don't want this shoebox basically to get blown apart and have all my parts get lost.
Yeah.
So he was good for a while, and then COVID hit, and I think he lost a bunch of staff because they were shipping boxes that were 25 pounds, and the last box might only be 12 pounds or whatever, right? But at least we were maxing out boxes of 25 pounds. Well, then he shipped me like an 85-pound box, and it blew apart across the UPS truck. And later on eBay, I saw that there was nozzles labeled Dynamite Diesel, and they were blanks. They were useless. And the guy that bought them bought this, like, basically they bid on like apple carts is what I picture. And whatever's in the cart, you get to bid on it and you buy it, and they ship you the whole cart, right? So it's just lost freight. Well, this dude was trying to sell them nozzles for like $50 a piece as blanks. And I'm like, bro, I've already paid for those. Like, just, I'll give you 3 or 4 or $5, but you don't, they're useless to anybody else. And then we called the sheriff of his community. They went out and gave him a visit, and the guy took them off. I don't know whatever happened to them, but they were gone. So 3 or 4 months is what it took for that factory to reload my order. So I was out of nozzles for like 3 or 4 months. And while I was, sitting here stewing with a stomach ache almost daily, because you kind of get tired of people yelling about back orders, right? Like, it's not my fault, but I want to help you. I want to service you. I want your money, but nothing I can do about it. I can't make the parts. They shipped us another batch, and they screwed up the heat treat. So microscopically, the nozzle wasn't dead straight. So when we popped a hole in and you rotated it around, it was off a little bit. And inside the nozzle, you could plain as day see that it was kind of shaped like a baby banana. And I told him about it, showed it to him, and he lied and denied it and said that it wasn't true. And I'm like, okay, then I'll send you 60 of them and you fix them, because apparently I suck at this gig. And he's like, no, it costs too much money to ship them back to me, so don't ship them back. I'm like, well, ship me stuff that's straight, because these aren't straight. And then I sent them, I actually jumped on an airplane, flew out to Zeiss Industries, and got on their CMMs and discovered and gave the dude measurements of how far out of round they were. And of course he said, no, that's not true. That's not true. And I'm like, dude, this is an $80,000 tool that measures only this job. This is exactly what you do to measure that. And he was just, no. Well, that got us on our quest to start manufacturing nozzles. And, we're still undertaking that. Like, that is a huge undertaking. I'm blown away how much effort's already in the project and how we haven't made one nozzle yet. But yeah, when 6 months ago, well, I guess it's our CFO, Rebecca, and I were in the truck, and it was snowing. So it was probably December, maybe January, and we were driving around looking at buildings because she knows that like if Lenny doesn't have something to do for this year, he'll screw up everybody else's by making them do a bunch of needless dumb stuff. So she's like, what are we going to keep you doing this year? Like, is it a new building? Is it new property? Like, what do you do to, keep everybody going and stay out of their way? I'm like, well, so we drove around, we were looking for dirt. There was no dirt. And then we stumbled across a building that was 300 yards from my current facility, but it's Flowmaster exhausts, like big building that they used to have here in town. So it's exactly double the amount of square footage inside that I have right now. And they have like, it's either 600 or 800 amps at 480 volt, which all the big grinders and stuff to make nozzles are all 480 volt. So we were already in the midst of buying, purchasing, ordering all those other tools, just to bring the power into our building. But then my guys are like, dude, the bathroom's always full. There's somebody's always in the bathroom. And we've already bled over it into my next door neighbor's parking lot. So I'm like, man, if he ever leaves that building and somebody's going to operate a business, like we're going to be in problems. So we're buying this other building. We got it under construction. We're setting it up very similar to the building we're in because it's a very efficient system. And it gives us a bunch of room to spare. Plus, it's almost got 3 acres of dirt. So in the future, as the company continues to grow, we can continue stacking more buildings out back behind it. And ultimately, 3 acres of nozzle manufacturing and diesel injection parts is a lot of parts. So I think this is going to be my last move before I finally like kind of hang up the hat and retire. And I don't even know what that looks like either because I'm still building like my retirement. I want to go truck pulling when I retire. Like some dudes want to go fishing. I just want to like jump in my toter home with my fancy ass trailer and go, God, I've never been to Shides. Let's go to Shides. That'll be fun. So I'm still working on that truck. But yeah, the building, we currently have drawings being certified by the state of Idaho on, we had to, since we added the mezzanine, we got to bring drop downs below the mezzanine. So we've got fire protection underneath that. So we'll probably be installing in 2 or 3 weeks. Plumbers got certified yesterday, so they're passed. So we can patch up the sheetrock and we can put all the sinks and countertops against the walls. The tape texture guy comes in this Saturday for his stuff. The framing and stairs and all that stuff's all done. We're painting right now. So, and it used to be Flowmaster exhaust. So there was one side of the shop had like just tons of exhaust soot kind of stuck to the walls. So I bought a vacuum cleaner with a, like a brush, and we're vacuuming the entire walls over and over and over to get all that crap off. And then we got to prime it and seal it up. And yesterday I bought some VCT tile to cover the OSB in the upstairs. Man, we're close. Electricians have already been in. All of their main runs are done. They're just waiting. Basically, the day that we go to move, since it's only 300 yards away, we're going to pull the machines, set them on the trailer, drag them 300 yards, set them on the ground where they go, and electricians are going to wire them up right there on the site. So I'm hoping that if I hire like Coeur d'Alene movers, get like 10 dudes plus my guys to help, I think we'll be done in 2 days. So we'll just have like a Thursday and a Friday off, and then whatever kind of loose ends like me and a couple of the guys can like hammer through on the weekend, and then flip the lights on Monday that's my dream. And then once we're in the building, October 24th and 25th, well, like I say, we're hosting our first dealer day. So Tony will be out and he'll have basically, we're capping it at 50 because Tony, I'm going to give Tony the hub dyno and my guy Mitch and the scan tools. And then those guys are going to work with half the class on troubleshooting trees of like new technology stuff. So like all the emissions gear and all that stuff. So he'll get half the class on Thursday. And then on Friday, I will get those guys And Rebecca, our CFO, is going to have like half of it for half the day. And then in the afternoon, I'll take that half. And then I'm going to give those guys half a day of injector stuff, like how we tear stuff apart, how we wash it, how we put it together, how we reman things, how we EDM, how Dynamite does it differently underneath one roof. So everybody's going to get a really good course, a really good education on emissions gear testing, how to run your company, because Rebecca, our CFO, like if she can make me, who's an ADHD spastic, you know, like for me to read a book, it's painful, but I can force myself through it. It's just I got to do it in short bits. If she can make me semi-successful, she can help anybody. And, you know, with her having 25 years in the banking business, she can explain to you why it's so important that your company's profitable and why your company needs to look good on the books if you plan on growing it or selling it. And ultimately, for like a bunch of my technician friends, super crafty with their hands, and as long as they're making something per hour, they think they're making it. But on the backside, if you're going to truly build something that's sellable, there's a lot of thoughts that need to go into that, and that's all stuff that I want Rebecca, my CFO, to be able to share with like all of our dealer networks, so our dealer network is extremely successful. You know, like the guys that don't pay their bills on time, they're not successful. They're great people, they're great everything, you know, they're great technicians, but they're working with their own two hands. They're not letting their dirt work for them. They're not setting themselves up for success in the future, and that's something that Rebecca hopefully can help a lot of people out with. So we're going to give, you know, myself, I'll have the guys for the injector stuff. Rebecca's going to have them for like the business side of things, you know, policies and insurance and all of it. And then Tony, who we pay to fly in, hang out with us, he's going to be teaching guys about like just newer troubleshooting of emission stuff. So that's, I mean, that's a lot. It's going to be 2 really full days, and we're catering. We got like 2 food trucks coming out, you know, and that's a couple $1,000 a day just to feed that many people. But I want everybody to be very comfortable, have a great time. Since the property's so big, we're actually going to let people camp in the backyard if they've got a camp trailer or anything like that. Like then they can just, you know, park it in the backyard and they can stay and hang out for the entire, you know, 2 days, and then maybe Saturday, if anybody's around, maybe we'll go out and go boating or something. I don't know, but
That'll be
do
fun.
something. I hope so.
Common question we get from you guys a lot is, hey, I need a diesel engine. I either, you know, I can't wait this long to get one, or normal place I get stuff from it just takes too long, or they don't have the parts in it that I need. Maybe my truck's not stock, or I tow heavy with it. I don't want to go back with just a stock engine. DFC Diesel is a sponsor of the podcast. We worked with them, you know, hand in hand on doing episodes, answering technical questions. They have a complete lineup of Cummins, Duramax, and Power Stroke remanufactured engines that are set to a standard of ISO 9001 2015 standards, which is a huge deal in the aftermarket. And there's certain levels of quality testing, validation that are required for that. So you know when you get one of those engines, the type of quality that's built behind it with an industry-leading warranty that's really comprehensive. And you know, the other thing with that is, you know, sometimes the options that are out there, it's a basic OEM engine. You want a little bit more. You don't want to have the same failure again. So there's a bunch of different series of engines that they have, from core, street, tow haul, and also the Speed of Air series, which we've covered on the podcast before. There's a lot of really cool benefits to it. And if you have questions about that, reach out to them. If you don't know the type of engine that you're looking for, if you go to dfcdiesel.com, there's a ton of info there. You can send an email or you can reach out to them. Also, they're working with Speed of Air pistons, which it's the only piston that pays for itself. And there's a lot of really cool technology behind it. So you can add that into your build and be able to get better fuel economy, increase power, increase torque, and better engine life out of it. Some of the most common engine applications or series of engines that they have with that lead time, a lot of them are in stock or they have really short lead times. So you can check your favorite retailer or go to dfcdiesel.com, check them out, see what's in stock, see what you can get. If you have questions, maybe you want to do, something that's outside of the normal series of engines, they have tons of choices for rods, cranks, pistons, valve train upgrades, tons of different things. So if you're in the market, definitely make sure and head on over and check them out. I wanted to ask you a question about that. Something I'm just curious about is, I guess it would be a, a larger company, not necessarily like, I don't want to mention company names. I can't even think of any outside of diesel, but just think of something as big as Dynamite or a little bigger, just a little bit smaller. What would be the benefit, or what benefits have you seen to focusing on your dealer network and training it and nurturing it versus saying, I'm just going to go all retail. I don't care about dealers. I'm really curious about those two different approaches because I've seen it play out both ways. And it's always something I've never had an answer to and really known other than for myself. I think, hey, I would rather work with a lot of great companies, a lot of great shops all over the country. They're going to have dedicated customers who always take their truck there. I want to support them because it's like I have a larger sales force now, a larger service force now. But then sometimes in the market, I see companies go, "No, I'm just going to go direct and just do retail the whole time." And I'm curious what your thoughts are with that.
I'm a big believer in if you take care. I, I once had a boss that was like really just kind of I was 18 and pretty thin skinned. He was real into investing into you as long as he saw you investing into you. Meaning, I'm not gonna teach you anything or give you anything. You're not gonna get a raise unless you're actually like doing things in your life to make yourself better and perform better at work as a byproduct. A long time ago, there was a small warehouse that had like 15 people as employees, and that small warehouse was like the big game. And I told them way back then, I was like, look, man, like I suck at business, and I think that if you could teach me and all the other guys my age how to operate our businesses correctly, we would stay more accurately at paying you and be able to grow our business and buy more parts. And I pushed that for years and it never came to fruition. I'm a big believer that if you keep a strong team around you, meaning like I'm a manufacturer, I'm going to supply either warehouses who I want to be very strong, dealer network being shops like brick and mortars. Like my brick and mortars, if I give them bad parts, my entire company will like do everything we can to get you back on the road ASAP because we understand that you can't get paid unless you can ship your truck. So the last thing that I want to do is ship you a part that doesn't function the way it's supposed to function. And sometimes stuff happens, like whether it's done in freight or whether it's done in install or whatever. But if you can get me that thing back overnight, I'll get it back to you overnight. Like we put you to the front of the line. And if it's something that is just like easier just to send you another one, then we just take care of that. I really want everybody in my dealer network, no matter what level they're at, to be extremely successful because that makes me even more successful. If I have to run around chasing you down for money all the time, then I know for a fact you're probably not running a really tight ship and you might not know how. But then again, just this morning I got a message saying that one of our vendors was on credit hold again, and that there's really bad news following that. So that being said, I believe that private equity money seems to be effing horrible. Companies will, like my company, I'm the piss and vinegar of that company. I'm not touching every injector. I'm not doing the timing on that truck right there. I'll be here for some dyno tuning. I'll be here for advice. I'll help everybody. But if I'm at a race, that doesn't mean I'm not working. And if I'm flying to Shides, that doesn't mean I'm not working. Like I'm going there with intentions to help my customers there. And most of our customers at the PPL or NHRDA or whatever, they're customers that have customers. I'm helping shop owners, and I'm making you feel really comfortable when you've got a relationship with a guy that you can tease with and send memes and jokes and stuff to. Like that's great networking because there's always going to be a time when push comes to shove and the situation sucks. And then there's got to be hard talks. Well, if you've got a good friendship with somebody, those hard talks are pretty seamless, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, like I look at, the stories of private equity money. We were almost bought during COVID, and I thought, man, this is awesome. To have somebody that thinks highly enough of my company, they'd want to buy it. And then I got another one, and then I got another offer. I'm like, man, this is really weird. Like I went 15, 18 years or whatever it was with nobody ever asking to buy Dynamite Diesel. And then all of a sudden in 1 year, three people are asking to buy Dynamite Diesel. And that's when I really had to like look at the company to figure out what private equity money saw. And what they saw was opportunity. Like they saw the ability, if they bought us at that point and we had all the knowledge to do it, and they just invested money and bought us more machines and got me more employees, we would have done things on a really grand scale really, really quick. But I promise you that right now, the quality of the product wouldn't be as good if we would have gone that direction as it is right now, because it takes people that are really, really sharp, and they've got to love what they do. Like if you just wake up thinking I'm going to make a bunch of money today, you might. But if you wake up thinking I'm going to do an amazing job today, it may be slower and it may be more steady, but you'll probably make more money in the long run. And right now, like we've got guys that all get paid really well. They've got good vacation. They've got great benefits, but it's guys that I trust. Like I love the people that I work with right now. There's very little to no drama. I mean, other than like they're kind of fighting over the toilet because I think there's 22 or 24 of us. There might be 22 to 24 people in that building right now. We've sectored off one room as the ladies' room and one room for the men's room. And there's only two women in there, and there's a bunch more dudes. So, we need more bathrooms, but that's not their problem. That's my problem. So, and I'm fixing that here in like September, October. Um, I wholeheartedly believe that whatever the hell I'm doing right now must be working, and it's working really well because my crew. This weekend we went to the National Hot Rod Diesel event, and I've seen power driven work so hard, and then you get to the event and they work, 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 and I'm thinking, dude, that's not fun. That looks miserable. We've converted them over to a bunch of our stuff, and beginning of injection and end of injection are really critical. And I've said that for years. And some of the dirty tricks that dirty diesels have done for a very long time, the end of injection was not correct at all. And it was really hard on engines, pistons, parts, crankshafts, blocks. Well, now that they're using all our stuff, like they're winning, and they're not like I walk over and between rounds and the hoods are all up. I'm like, what's up? And they're like, just letting them cool off. This is so crazy. Like, you're not working on them? No, everything's perfect. Well, there you go. Like, you got to have a good injector. And if you don't, everything else can be perfect, but it's not going to work right. Those guys did amazing this weekend. That was really fun to see. A bunch of our dealer network was there. It was fun to watch them all be successful and do really well. Um, Back to us, Tim Moore, myself, Zach, Skyler, they're all still current employees. An ex-employee, Matt Morris, was there with us. I hope I'm not forgetting anybody. I mean, there was, basically four or five of us from Dynamite that was there at the event. Oh no, still, outside sales guy, Wade from Diesel Daydreams. Him and his brother were in the booth. So there was 7 DDP employees there. Six employees, one of our friends, just walking around making sure that our customers are handled, take care of. Like Zach and myself, we went down, helped out a fellow with the ZFI Live. It needed updated and all sorts of stuff. Started sending logs back to his tuner, got him straight and square and dialed in. Like we were basically there to race. Skylar killed 2 transmissions in 3 passes. Whoops, turned up the power too far. And Skylar's now got transmissions for sale that are really good if anybody wants something, but it's turbo 400 time for him. So it's, man, it's wild how that one event and our PPL guys, like we've got a bunch of guys pulling with 2.6 and 3-inch stuff. And every weekend I'm looking at the top 5 and I'm thinking, well, we have 3, if not 5 of the top 5. And I look at the top 10, I'm like, man, we got 6 or 7 trucks in the top 10. So I love it. The success is amazing. Some guys want people to know that they run our stuff. Some guys are absolutely against people knowing they run our stuff. And, like they know and I know, but um, quality of part. And you're not going to get quality parts without quality people that care about their stuff. So that answer your question.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. I'm glad you brought up the the racing stuff too, because you were telling me before the podcast a little bit about some really cool electronic stuff and the power levels being achieved, and you were talking about, they're reaching levels that 47 and 48 built units can't hold, and I thought that'd be really cool because I was chatting with Ken from Capital Diesel Performance recently. We're talking about his UCC truck and his win, and he was talking about your injectors. But what are you hearing on the racing side? What's big that's going to be new that potentially open this all up?
You know who Tyler Baker is?
No.
Okay, so he's like just down by Denver. He's got a company called PRT Diesel. And Tyler's kind of a quiet personality, really good dude. He's done a lot of like heavy semi truck repair and things like that. So he's got a good sized shop down there. Younger fella, but the state of Colorado needed his property. So he sold his property to the state of Colorado, and they did some big ass roundabout or something right where his shop was. Apparently he just moved down the street and he downsized. Like he had like 15 guys, and now he's got a service truck and a smaller shop and a lot less employees, and he seems to be really happy. But Tyler Baker built some of the coolest stuff into this one truck. It's basically got an S480 on the manifold, T4, two 45 mil gates, and then he's got another gate in the hot pipe to slow down the big turbo. So he's managing boost like perfectly. And he's got like an FIS 113 or 114 mil compressor wheel. That truck is stupid clean. Like there's no factory wiring harnesses in it. There's no ganky looking stuff. It underneath the hood is amazing. But it's also got a turbo 400 with a divorced SCS transfer case behind that. That truck makes 2,000 and change on boost. Like there's no bottle in the truck, and it gets down. But watching him run, come back, do nothing. We run, come back, discover that second gear band is torched, change tranny. We make one or two more passes and do the exact same thing. I'm down there talking to the guys at like Power Driven, and they're like, well, there's some really small tricks that you're not doing that would help a little bit, but still you're not going to build one tranny and run it all year. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like it's very expensive to build a 47 or 48.
Yeah.
That's going to hold that kind of power. But if you plan on servicing it every couple of weekends, I'm too lazy. I got no time for that. So Skylar's out. He's going to get a turbo 400. Ryan Milliken is helping him with the controls of all that. So Milliken has been pushing on Fuel Tech to get their stuff released. And the Fuel Tech stuff's supposed to be released in October, which means that right now Skylar is out for the season, but he'll be back in with a turbo 400, a Fuel Tech. He'll be able to control engine and transmission stuff with the Fuel Tech, all the data and all the stuff. It's kind of like the Motec. They're a lot less money than a Motec. A Motec's like, by the time you're said and done, 20 grand, and they're not very readily available. The Fuel Tech stuff, you're going to be like 7 to 10 grand, and you'll be able to control nitrous, transmission, ECM, all of it, and run data logs through all of that as well. So that's very exciting. And then another buddy of mine, Chad Perkins, has been using this stuff from Boldur, which is it's an Iceland company, and they've got an ECM that's been out for like 3 years now, and I was scared to death of it because nobody really knew much about it. Well, Chad was sharp enough to pull the guy in and have him help him, and that dude shows up on Chad's dyno, and they just beat on it until they got it right. and Chad's had pretty good success. So he's got some people making like professional race quality wiring harnesses for him. They tried to hybrid like non-military spec wire behind that bull doer, and the bull doer was so much more accurate than the wire that a regular pickup truck harness wasn't even working correctly. So they've got real harnesses. They've got 2 harnesses today. They got them yesterday. So he's got 2 that got to go dyno, get shipped. And I know that he's got at least 10 more of those things sold. Aftermarket ECMs at this point, like we got Fleece, we got Wagglers, we got D&Js, got all these guys building like, high dollar motors. We got S&S Extra G Dynamite building like high dollar injectors. We got Wagglers building like really good connecting rods, and we've got good valves. We've got good cylinder heads, but we just really don't have any way to control them electronically very well. The Bosch is out there. It doesn't tune really easy. You've got to understand Bosch to do it. They're super expensive. The Motec is super expensive. It's good. But yeah, having Fuel Tech and Bulldoer come out, I think I'm very excited about it, because for the racing scene to continue growing, I've always told people, like, if I owned a 69 Nova and I walked over to a diesel program in the pits and saw how much they were working between rounds, I wouldn't sell my 69 Nova to become a diesel guy. That looks like way too much work. But when you look at PRT Diesel's truck and the thing gets down, makes tons of power, and he's not having to work on it between rounds, that is cool to me. So, like my buddy Donovan Harris, his brother Darron, they've got that little Pro Mod truck. And Ryan Milliken flew to Spokane. Donovan drove here. They were here in my garage for 2 days getting the Motec set up in that truck. They were able to stage limit it right here in the driveway. Donovan took it to a track one day, sent some data logs back to Milliken. They got it kind of straightened out. Donovan brought it to NHRDA, and he banged out a 476, I think was his best. And basically the truck, I'm not a suspension guy, but if you give it a bunch of bite on the front end, you give up bite on the back end, and vice versa. The tires are wrong for the suspension right now. We didn't know that. Like, nobody buys stuff wrong. But when you're building a truck that's going to go, 450, 460, there's not a blueprint. You don't just, cut, copy, paste. But that truck, man, Donovan can drive, but he was, and I mean like 75% down the 8th mile, that truck was sideways, and you could hear the tires vibrate like they're ratcheting, like it's against the rear shocks, and the tires are ratcheting because they're spinning, and the truck's like sliding sideways, right, left. And I'm just like, holy shit. He come back around. It shakes so hard that the carbon fiber doors where the outside of the door goes over and then back in, the carbon fiber split on the door. Like, that's how much that truck's shaking. So when you take into consideration like the amount of time, Donovan lives in like Red Deer, Alberta, so it's not Antarctica, but it's close to it. They don't race very often. They don't. Like, they don't have enough months to go racing. When you're Milliken and those guys, you live in Florida and Georgia and the Carolinas or Texas, you can race a lot of months, maybe 12, maybe 9 months a year, but you can race. And in Red Deer, Alberta, they can't do that. So to see what they've built in the short amount of time and have it come out and kick a 470 off with really shitty suspension setup that we couldn't fix this weekend, it was wicked cool. And that just goes to show me that for all of you guys that are diesel guys out there that want to haul ass, that we're so close to being right there. Like October, when this Fuel Tech stuff comes out, Bull Doer stuff, like when harnesses become free for that, then you can tune your own stuff. Like, you and I both know that the guys that are on Street Outlaws are going to every track every weekend and racing. Their tuner's not getting data logs. They're tuning that from the trailer. we are this far away from being the guys that can buy an ECM, get baseline tuning done on the dyno, take it to the track, bring it back, understand what's in the laptop, tune it, set it up, make another lap. Like, we're so close. It's very exciting for the racing industry, in my opinion, right now.
Yeah, that's going to really be cool. And that's coming up here in just a couple months. So that'll be really cool to see early next year when people do their winter projects and everything like that. What's going to be happening?
I would say this winter, like, our dyno is going to be busy. I would say everybody who went to that race this weekend probably saw a gleam of hope. This coming week is Shides already. Like, Shides to me has always been like at the end of summer. And I don't know what happened, but this year, yesterday was January and Shides is, I leave Wednesday. I don't know where the hell the time went. We're making progress. I feel like when I go to town, I look at stuff and I'm like, yeah, we're making headway. I just can't believe Shides is next week because we're starting to, I mean, kids will be going back to school pretty quick.
Yeah.
So yeah, from like truck pull guys, 3-inch truck pull guys, 2.6 truck pull guys, uh, um, Patrick O'Brien Motorsports, he did some testing with a set of our injectors on a tractor turbo, not a 3.6 like PPL, but a 3.4. And he was blown away at how much power a common rail would make with that turbo. So we're starting to get guys interested in doing 3.6 common rail builds. And I wholeheartedly believe that a 3.6 common rail with proper tuning and proper injectors is going to make 2,200 horse. And I wholeheartedly believe that this winter, I'll bet I make 3,000 horsepower on the engine dyno with the common rail injector that we have right now today. With a 6.7 based body, the return is so low with all the stuff that we're doing, and the nozzles that we have. I bet I make 3,000 horsepower with a 14 millimeter pump and a 12. I don't think that we have, like Kenny Bruner, he's 2,800 horsepower and all out of fuel with 212s. But those are on 5.9s and they return more than a 6.7. I mean, I don't know. Maybe we'll make 3,000 horsepower and 212s, which would be really exciting. But, the parasitic drag of a pump that's not working its balls off is way lower. So it's more efficient. When you've got these big mechanical pumps and they've got 15, 16, 17 millimeter plungers, it takes a lot of horsepower to drive that injection pump to spin those plungers that are basically baby pistons up and down. The common rail stuff, if you can get the return really, really, really low, the pumps become very, very, very efficient and the parasitic drag on the front of the motor drops. So what those guys are, they're 5x38s and they're huge injectors. Like, we don't need that. We have injection pressure and we've got more efficient pumps. So I bet I make 3,000 horsepower. I'm willing to bet, now that I think about it, I bet I make 3K with 2 turbos on an engine dyno with 6.7 injectors. And it'll be either a Boldur ECU or a fuel tech, but I bet that we're able to do that with just 2 pumps, 212s.
It's going to be exciting. I think that tuning stuff is going to be huge too, not just because of the cost, or maybe mostly because of the cost. You think of the whole build, what you're paying for the engine, the transmission, the suspension, all the other things that somebody's investing in. And if you can knock off half the price or somewhere around there to be able to have something that is easier to use, and a lot of those tuners, like you mentioned, are familiar with it and can help you, or there's classes you can go to and you can do it yourself, like on the trailer, like you mentioned, that's going to be huge.
That, and like diesel people, maybe it's all the racing community, but they're basically alphas. Like, they're not out there to take second place. They're not out there because they're willing to take direction and be told what to do. Like, they're out there trying to prove that they can do it, right? And if you as a business person, think that you can control one of these diesel people or a drag racer in general, you think you can control that person? That guy will fight you before he lets you control him. And I don't even care who it is. Like you're just not going to find that personality in a guy that sits behind a wheel and wants to go like so fast that he could die. That guy's not complacent. He's not going to be pushed around. He's not going to be told what to do. I think that having these ECMs available, if that guy had 3 or 4 or 5 buddies that all had the same ECM, kind of the same injector, kind of the same motor, you would be learning off of each other every week. You just call your buddy and be like, yo, Frank, like, here's what I'm looking at. Did you ever get to this point? Yeah. Did you try that? No, I didn't try that. I'll try that now. And he goes and calls Frank back and goes, yeah, I tried it. Actually, it brought me, further to the end zone. Right. So it's, for me, like I'm so excited to see where it's all at. It's, and every time that we've ever done anything in racing, not just Dynamite or me, but humans in general, when we become more successful at racing, somehow or the other, that technology or that idea falls back into daily driver stock stuff. And that's proven. Like you look at a 1994 Dodge with a P pump. Cummins back then was telling us we added 100 horsepower. We're going to be blowing, melting pistons and doing all sorts of stupid stuff. And it's like, look back now, them trucks are rated at 175 and now they're rated at 450. You can't tell me they didn't follow the racing scene to get there. They did.
It's really cool stuff. Well, I know you've got a lot coming up with the big move. Some new things with parts and your own race truck and everything like that. It was cool to catch up with you. I'm sure Shide's going to be fun next week. I haven't been in a really long time, but I have been twice, and it was an eye-opening experience from somebody that's, spent most of their life out west, and then you go to the Midwest and see all the trucks and all the people. It was a really cool experience. So I appreciate you chatting with me this morning, and look forward to seeing that injector package you mentioned with Edge and how that all shakes out, and just following what you guys are doing this fall.
Well, man, I appreciate you, Patrick, and to all the people listening to this podcast, man, like, you guys are awesome. Thank you very much. Thanks for the support. And, look for big things coming, because I do believe that all of us that are still enthusiasts probably have a really bright future here in the next year.
Don't forget, diesel fans, make sure and head on over to Kershaw.kaiusa.com. Use code TDP40, get you 40% off retail. So if you're in the market for an EDC knife or something for hunting, fishing, around the job site, around the house, they've definitely got you covered with a whole bunch of choices for opening mechanism, blade steel, blade shape, handle design, and the whole lineup's designed to really meet any budget. So we appreciate them offering that code to help save you guys some money and get some really cool gear. Also, we recently started Rugged Threads Co. We wanted to have apparel and t-shirts, things like that can really capture the truck lifestyle and things that we'd want to wear ourselves, like this t-shirt I'm wearing today, or you've seen on other podcasts. I want to thank you guys for all your support, the orders, the encouragement, suggestions you guys have given us, things you want to see on a mug or on a t-shirt. We're really excited to be able to grow this, expand it, really have something that embodies our passion as truck enthusiasts, and also stuff we can wear, day to day, on the weekends, just have a good time with. So wanted to thank you guys for all your support. Also want to give a shout out to our Patreon supporters, Tyler Loewen and 23 Diesel, CUTTERUP Rob, Colby, J Cole, all of our other Patreon supporters, all of you who subscribe on YouTube and podcast apps, follow us on social media. We appreciate all your support here in year 8 of the Diesel podcast, and look forward to bringing you more of the content you want to hear in 2024. Till next time, keep the shiny side up.